Welcome to Emergent Talks. These are unscripted, spontaneous. I don't know what I'm going to say. I do have a theme that just came to me, but this is an exploration. It's a journey through conversation. That's my intention. So I'm not going to repeat any preconceived notions that I have memorized. I'm treating this as an exploration. And it also acts as a mindfulness practice. That's what's really interesting about this type of speech. So the theme that just arrived is using gratitude as your mind's default, meaning when you don't know what to do, defaulting to gratitude instead of whatever coping mechanisms or fear or worry. And we can entrain ourselves, reprogram ourselves to do this. And I just did this while doing a little meditation. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. When in doubt, thank it out. When in doubt, gratitude it out. You can do this in conversation with people. If you don't know what to say or you get nervous or social anxiety, think about what you can be grateful for and how you can express that gratitude. You know, you're talking to someone, you could say, hey, thanks for being an inspiration, or thanks for putting together this party. I appreciate that. That works. And gratitude acts as this force of magnetism and amplification of positive things in your life. If you walk around in a state of gratitude and expressing that, people are going to love you a lot more. They're going to love you a lot more compared to someone who's complaining or worried all the time. And we can make gratitude that default. So when your mind starts scrambling or doesn't know what to do in any situation, practice gratitude as the default. You know, maybe you're working on something or you have paperwork in front of you. Go to gratitude. Instead of, like with paperwork, that's a good example. It's so easy to get frustrated with paperwork, you know, like, why do we need to do this? Such bullshit, you know. I'm sure pretty much everyone does that to some degree with paperwork, you know, especially as it relates to like governmental entities and things like that. But what if instead of that default mechanism kicking in, what if when you take out that paperwork, maybe it's on a screen, you know, just going, hey, thank you. Wow. Like I made money and I'm paying taxes on this money, even though I don't agree with, you know, taxation in general or whatever the beliefs are. Thank you. You know, thank you. Even if you don't even have a reason for gratitude, just say thank you and embody gratitude. That's the other thing. Yeah, this is something to explore too. You don't need a reason for gratitude, because to need a reason for gratitude means that your mind is jumping in first, or your mind is taking priority, because your mind is saying, okay, we have something to be grateful for. So now we can choose to be grateful now because of this reason. That's like conditional gratitude. This is good stuff. Conditional versus unconditional gratitude. So you don't really need a reason. Gratitude can be the reason. Even simply being can be the reason. And I find this to be some of the deepest gratitude feelings in my life, when I'm grateful for no reason. It's just gratitude for existing, gratitude for being. So let that notion go of you need a reason to be grateful. It's such a trap, you know, when my life looks a certain way, or I'm at this certain point, or I achieve a goal, then I'll allow myself to be grateful. That's just the ego mind creating conditions for you and keeping you trapped in a loop of frustration and not doing what you really want to do. But that choice, and it's even beyond a choice too, it's simply feeling something that is. Because it seems like gratitude is this frequency or state that exists always, and it's just about tapping into it or realizing it's always here, you know? So when you do that, you create these feedback loops of beauty and abundance and connection and positivity. And you don't have to wait for the good things to happen. So gratitude, it's like an amplification mechanism of the good things in life. Because you're feeling that gratitude, you might apply it to something that's happening, and then what happens with that? You're more magnetic, people like you more, you can focus more, you're not wasting your energy on reactivity and negative emotions, all that kind of stuff. You're more creative, you're more inspired. Boom, feedback loop. That all gets into feedback loops. You know, you're inspired, you create better things, you connect with more people and they love you. You're inspired, you create more things, you see how it goes, you know? Do this in your career, you're going to advance in your career effortlessly. Not effortlessly, but it'll feel effortless. It's that effortless effort, Wu Wei, you know, Taoism, that flow. But things will come to you, opportunities will arise, and it will be in a state of flow. You won't be forcing it, and you won't feel like you're struggling and frustrated through that journey. It'll be easeful, it'll be fulfilling the whole way. You know, same thing with health and fitness. I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful that I can lift these weights. I'm grateful for every morsel of food I eat. That will create that amplification feedback loop of health, fitness, relationships, obviously. If you're a grateful person, people are gonna love to be around you. You know, creates the feedback loops there. And again, I'm gonna emphasize this because I've never thought of this before. You don't need a reason to be grateful. Simply realize the gratitude that's always here and now. Because it is. You don't need a reason. Your being has a quality of gratitude in and of itself. And if you do any kind of mindful activity, even if it's taking a walk outside, you'll realize this. Because once the mind slows down a bit, you can realize that inherent gratitude. But you can also direct your mind for gratitude. Even just say thank you. Default to thank you with anything. You know, walk outside the door, thank you. You know, you see your neighbor taking out the trash and you have one of those awkward moments. Maybe you don't want to talk to him and her. Just whisper thank you to yourself. That'll change the energy around it. It'll change how you act. So instead of, again, defaulting to like anxiety or like judgment, like, I hate that guy. Instead of that, thank you. You know? You can default to it in any situation. Even when you're going to the bathroom, thank you. You know, I'm flowing. Water, liquid is flowing through me today. I'm grateful for that. Use it as the default in any situation. Even say it when it doesn't make sense. You know, someone cuts you off in traffic. Thank you. And then your mind could find a reason after. That's the funny thing. Once you get into that state, your mind will be like, oh, yeah, that is something to be grateful for because that person cut me off, gave me an opportunity to be more present, or gave me an opportunity to see how far I've come in terms of not being reactive. That kind of thing. I don't know if I have anything else related to this. Unconditional gratitude, you don't need a reason. Make it your default. And this is a way of reprogramming yourself, your subconscious mind, your nervous system, reprogramming your ego. Like, what if your ego became an automated gratitude finder? Like, obviously that might not be all it is, but could be possible. You know, what if your ego becomes obsessed with things to be grateful for? Maybe. There does seem to be a bias towards survival for the ego. But could that coexist? That's an interesting question. I don't know. could gratitude, like, let's say the ego's default, like when you go unconscious, meaning, and I don't mean like unconscious, I mean when you're not present, aware, and intentional, you know, when you go on autopilot through life. What if that autopilot default was gratitude, was thank you? I mean, it is possible because it could help with survival. It could. Like, gratitude doesn't necessarily work against survival. It doesn't inhibit survival. Maybe it could actually amplify survival. Who knows? I don't have an answer for that, but that's something to contemplate and think about. Gratitude could be an amplifier for survival, like physical survival as well. And definitely survival of identity, because the ego protects that as well. It wants to maintain that identity because that's its whole existence and that's safe. You know, this is why people will defend their identity as a scientist or as a teacher or as a writer, anything. The ego clings to that because it's completely identified with it, and it views a threat to that identity as a threat to its survival because it is that identity complex. So gratitude definitely helps the ego with whatever it's trying to do. But at the same time, it frees you from its grasp and allows you to be the consciousness beyond it and say, interesting responses. That's a little tangent, but I think that's everything. Yeah. I feel complete with that, and I'm really glad that this whole topic came up of like, let's make gratitude our default when we don't know what to do. You know, I don't know what to do. Okay, gratitude. How can I be grateful? How can I say thank you? And then that gratitude doesn't need to have a reason. You know, you don't need to make your mind, your ego mind, the boss. It doesn't need a reason to be grateful. You can simply choose to be grateful or realize the gratitude that is. That's such an interesting shift. Unconditional gratitude. And yeah, I'll wrap this up with that. Unconditional gratitude. I'm grateful for you for watching, listening, and feel that gratitude in your heart right now as we close this video. All right. Much love, much gratitude.